and welcome to the DripDropz Catalyst After Town Hall. I'm Lloyd, and today our topic is a dRep discourse. This is part of our governance series. We've been doing a series of different workshops on CIP 1694 topics, and today is a continuation of that idea. And welcome, everyone. Let's jump right in. I've got just a brief thing, lay out some ground rules. This is a workshop. It's not a debate. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to discuss a topic and not bring in other topics from outside, hopefully, so that we can stay on track and on target, because the idea is giving some focused feedback to the IOG team that's working on CIP 1694 to help polish it in such a way that it has the community's voice in it. So in order to do that, let's go for mutual respect and courtesy. Let's make sure that if someone's speaking, we let them finish. But then also, when you are speaking, remember to take a breath every now and again to let others have a chance to speak as well. And then lastly, it's uninterrupted listening. And what that looks like is just that. It's just don't try not to think about what your response is, but instead listen to what the person has to say, so that from there you can hopefully have a better understanding of the other people in the room with you, and together we can come up with some good feedback for the CIP 1694 process. There's just two links here. I'm actually going to just share the link to the FigJam board. I'm not sure if you guys are able to click it on your own, but I will drop it in the chat for everybody. And I will share the slide link as well. That's no problem at all. Let's do that now. I'm going to stop the share, and I'm just going to drop some links in for you guys. Let's see. So first of all, the slide link. Is, well, where did my chat board go? There. There it goes. Slide link is here. And next, I'm going to bring up a Figma board. It is on, the Figma board is on an open session for 24 hours. So that means for the next 24 hours, anyone can edit it, and it will stop taking responses after 24 hours. But that gives you time that if you think of something after today's session that you'd like to add to the board, feel free to do so. We've got 24 hours to do that. And I'll pull the next thing I'll do now is share the Figma board. And you'll see this is very similar to how we've worked in the last few weeks. This is a neat way of, this is how they used the Longmont conference as well. They did this exactly. They kind of had a multiple user interface and had some questions and things where we move through a topic. This first thing here is just a question. We do this as a means to get a temperature check. So if you could take a moment and tell me how much you agree or disagree with the statement, tooling for dReps will help improve the overall adoption of Cardano governance. And you can click on here and vote anywhere you like, and I'll move away from it. I won't show it on screen there, so you guys can go up there and vote to your heart's content. I'll give it a couple minutes for that to happen before we move on. We can talk a little bit about, like, what is a dRep as a good way to get started here. That's kind of an important part of the topic. A dRep is there's a little bit of terminology here. There's a dRep in Catalyst, and then there's a dRep in Cardano. This is the dReps in Cardano that we're speaking of. They serve a very different role than a Catalyst dRep, and they're going to look very different. A Catalyst dRep looks like you're going to have voting power just for one fund. You'd vote that way for the fund, and then you lose all your voting power and you've got to start all over. The dRep in the CIP 1694 for Cardano governance looks more like a stake pool, actually, and in fact, it uses a certificate just like a stake pool operator, so that you would delegate to a dRep to vote for you, or you could register your own and become your own dRep if you chose. And there's no other limits, and you don't ever lose the stake unless somebody moves the stake, just like they would in that instance, in the instance of of that. Somebody remove something for me. That's all right. I'll put another one there. There it is. It's back. Thank you. All right. So we got some answers on the board. Appreciate everybody's answers. It looks pretty good. Looks like there's a pretty good agreement there of some form that this is a fairly important topic. So that's good. In the second section here, what we're going to do next, and there's a sticky note at the bottom that you can use with Figma. You can just grab a sticky note and you can stick it right on the board. And then what we're doing is we're brainstorming. Now we're looking for tools and interactions between a dRep and their constituent, or a dRep and the voting system itself. In other words, there's a proposal that's up to be voted. What does the dRep need to do in order to vote? And so those are the kind of tools that we're looking to discuss today. So we're trying to keep it in that kind of tight topic. So what are some tools that a dRep could use to speak to the people who've delegated to them? What are some tools that they could use to collect research, or to discuss their time, to track their time that they use? It's open to what are the most important tools, and what are tools that that people think would be helpful if they were dReps. So kind of imagine yourself as a dRep, and grab a sticky note and just put your favorite idea for something that a dRep would need to do their job well. So there's two different shapes down there, and the first shape is just like a square or whatever, square or circle or whatever. The second shape is a sticky note. It's better to use the sticky notes if we can for this part, because we're actually going to use the other as a different thing later. All right, some great ones here. So another kind of cool thing, there's some stickers there on the board. So if you see something that someone else has already put on the board, and you'd like to add like a sticker or a check mark, or something along those lines, that's also, I believe there's stamps. Yeah, there's stamps, and the stamps have like a heart, a +1, a thumbs up. So if you want to, if any of these topics, like I would have wrote that same thing, put a +1, put a thumbs up on them as well. So that way we see that more than one person agrees with that idea. That's super helpful as well. So let's see what happened here.
Somebody might have accidentally cleared the board.
Oh, I see. They just got moved. Okay. It got moved up to the left. So we didn't lose anything. Things may break, guys. Things may break. I'm afraid I don't have a way to lock some of these things down. Give me just a second. I can kind of pull everything back to where we had it. Let's see if I can get it all. There we go. All right, I'm going to pull it all back down here. Let's see. I'm going to set it right there. All right, I can clean this up a little bit more while you guys keep going. Don't worry about that.
Lloyd.
Yes.
Are we talking about dReps for Catalyst or dReps for Voltaire?
We're talking about Voltaire. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a SIP 1694 Voltaire product that we're dealing with today.
Okay. Some of the tool suggestions I think are good, but they kind of sound oriented more to Catalyst, but maybe I don't get it.
And that may be the case. And like, that's right there is a good feedback. We've had this conversation. We had it long. It's like, why is everybody named dRep? It's going to be a problem. It's hard to separate this information. But that's part of what we're going to end up doing, is we're going to have to, we're going to have to dig in and figure out, how do we communicate that to the community well, right? So. All right. All right, so take a quick look here. What I try to do at this step is I try to see if there's some similarities, things that we can collate these tools around. Okay, and I see one thing here. I see a tool for vote delegators to be able to find the right dRep searchable by info, their views, past voting performance, areas of expertise. I see public profile to share info and campaign to get ADA holders to delegate. I see registration, a page for ADA holders to see the history of dRep votes and the rationales, maybe some public profiles. Okay, so a lot of these here I'm seeing. So I think what I'd like to put for a topic is, I would like to say dRep onboarding tools, and then delegator onboarding tools. Right? So those are all kind of calling for that idea, the idea of, hey, how do I even get a dRep signed up to be a dRep? That's an important set. And then there's another set of tools that are delegator onboarding tools. Is that pretty fair? Is there anybody have any other opinions on that, sort of starting spot there, that we have at least these two kinds of tools so far? Okay, cool. Let's see. An extra function in the voting tool that allows dReps to see the history of a proposal. Okay, so now that goes along with a couple of the quality of life tools that I'm talking about as well. So I'm going to put, what I'll put here is, I'm going to say, we'll call them dRep quality of life tooling, and that's basically everything from how do I function as a dRep on a day-to-day basis. And that one can be broken down into a few different things. One of the areas for quality of life is communication. One of them is another one is I'm trying to think how because communication happens amongst different dReps, or amongst the dRep and the delegators. But I'm also thinking like it's like documenting or auditing. Just, and I saw the where did I see that one here? Seeing the history of the proposal. That's a different set. I'm sorry. Let's see this one. Live time messaging app with polls and star rating for ideas, where only the dRep and the delegators interact. Exactly. That's a good communication tool. And then I had also, one I have been playing with here was this tool to track visitors' conversations on a particular proposal. It happens in Catalyst too, where the circle reps have conversations. People are like, hey, I'm having a problem and I need to talk to you about the problem. Well, it's keeping track of that, and keeping track of who you spoke to and when, and what topic you spoke on is kind of important. So it's kind of like a guest book type of thing. So I don't know what's going on there. Sorry. Kind of like a guest book, or kind of a audit trail of visitors, if you will, that are both needed. And I find those are both quality of life tools for dReps. And I think then we also need, let's see, we had iteration cataloging for the proposals. Okay, all right, that's good, Chris. So like, so what you're saying, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong here, you're saying that if a proposal has kind of gone out and come back and gone out and come back, you want to know just kind of like the full history.
Yep. That's it.
So that one and this one here. So these two here are pretty and then this one here, time tracking tools connected to allowing the exporting of data, is very similar to this one here, right? The collation. And so we'll do that as well. So there we go. So we've got a couple of more. This is a couple of different ones. So this is really good. We've got onboarding, we've got quality of life, and then we've got sort of proposal history. I'm going to call it proposal history. And then we have, I just want to call it, it really is collation, but it's collation / export, I guess, of knowledge yeah, I don't know. I think collation / export might be tooling. Just call it that. How is that sounding, guys? Is there any other opinions based on what we have on the board? Is there any other tools that I've missed, or is there something that's not covered by one of these kind of overarching categories? Oops. I want to get off of all that. There we go. I'm going to move these guys now down here. Now we're going to move on to the next section of the board, and that's why we needed these kind of selections. What I'd like to see next is we take a look from a perspective of, is this needed for minimum viable governance? Is it something that we can get past the bootstrap phase and start building in later phases? And that would be post MVG, minimum viable governance, post MVG, or the third possibility is off chain. So yeah, if you'd like to make a copy of these, you can make a copy, and you can just put it where you think it fits best. MV is as we need it. We need to have it before we get started, or it could come a little later, and that's okay. And the third one is it's entirely off chain. It doesn't use any on chain tooling at all. It's just it's a tool like we use a Trello board, right? You see what I mean? So it's just a tool that we use, but it doesn't have any on chain or off chain capabilities. And let's look at the board. And again, you know, if you see somebody's pulled it on the board, yeah, let's either stack them up or, you know, just kind of move them around. And if you see two people have the same one and it's in the spot, great. You know, kind of just keep them together so that we can see that more than one person believes that that's there and that's where it belongs, because that's helpful to kind of move the ball forward here. I could see a little consensus around the idea of we got to have some onboarding tools for the dReps and the delegators. That's I agree with you guys. I definitely agree that that's a very important. I think this one may in fact just be entirely off chain. I don't know that there needs to be any on chain of that one. That was the collaboration and export.
Has there been a lot of discussion on whether or not this should be on the main chain or on side chain or L2?
Not really, and that's okay. So a lot of the stuff with the MVG and a lot of these topics, this topic's kind of a special one because we're talking about tooling itself, but So I'm using the MVG post MVG slightly differently than I do in a lot of these. In a lot of these conversations is, does it actually need to be in the ledger? Like, we're that specific. So this is not. It could be that it needs to be on chain, but it could be a side chain.
Sure.
You see what I mean? So this
Yep.
one's different. This one's a little different it's a tweak from the model, because again, we're talking about tooling. So for the most part, this is stuff that's going to interact with the on-chain. We will know we have this on-chain stuff, right? We know we have it. It's the ledger state of the voting stuff. We're going to have that. It's there. What do we do with it? Right?
I'm Figma dumb, so how do I duplicate a thing without
just
moving
click on one and copy it? Just click Control C, Control V, and then you can just move it. And that way you're kind of, it's like we're stacking cards if we think they're important, right? And then and yeah, I mean, as we can see, we've definitely got some, some stacked cards here. So people are agreeing on these overall topics pretty well. So let's see. Do we have any that haven't made it onto the board yet? I see communication, audit trail, onboarding tools, collation. Collation's made it on as a post MVG once. Quality of life tooling is there. Yeah. All right. So it does look like everything's at least on here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we got all 7 are on there. Does anybody that's watching here, does anybody disagree with the placement of anything? Should something that's in MVG be moved to post MVG, or vice versa? Is something more important to be in MVG that's not there? And if so, that's okay. It's, we can have somebody say that needs to be MVG and not post MVG. That's okay too. And also, does anybody think that communication or the audit trail needs to have any on-chain components, or are they really fine as off-chain tools that maybe you're just aware of, and again, maybe have a good export that can go into
Yeah, I'm having trouble copying, but I'm pretty much in agreement with what everybody's posting here. I think proposal history, and that could be expanded even, with an individual's history of proposals and all that kind of thing.
Oh, sure.
I think that should be on the ledger, just so it's immutable.
Well, that's a big ask, but understood. Was somebody else chiming in as well?
Yeah, I was just thinking about, I mean, surely somebody's thinking that the results of a vote are going to be posted on chain.
So that absolutely will be posted on chain. Like that, the voting results will always be immutably on chain. What's interesting, one of the things that's neat about the dRep from the SIP 1694 is there's a spot for metadata. So you will be able to put your work product as to why you came to your conclusion in there. So that's where some of these other tools like the guest book and audit trail of visitors comes in, and the collation and exporting comes in, is the idea of being able to wrap everything into one place so that you have, your on chain with a link to your off chain, and it's kind of all easy to do for the dRep, because it's going to be a lot of work. And I think that my guess is that successful dReps will be the ones that are able to properly document what they're thinking, why they're thinking it, and who they spoke to come to that conclusion, is going to help them be successful. And it's going to help the community who delegate to them be able to understand that they're doing their job well. Right now, you delegate your ADA, and you can tell your stake pool operators doing their job well if if the blocks they were supposed to get they got, and right, there's some basic ways of doing that. This is a little bit harder to quantify, but I'm hoping that with the right kind of tooling that we make it easier for the dRep to be able to talk about what they're doing and why, get good feedback from their community, and then and then take that feedback from their community and let that be the guide to their vote. And then they make their vote, and you can see a continuity through that process is the hope. So that looks good there. I think there's one last section, guys, that we can go, and we can move on to that section now. This is more for us as a group here that have gathered. This is a fairly easy thing, and it's the what, so what, now what down here at the bottom. And what we do with this, again, this is just a sticky note exercise. It's optional, but I really appreciate it if you guys do participate here. What each phase is what did you learn today? That's in the what column first. The so what is how does that impact you? How does it make you feel? And then the third column is what are you going to do next? What are you going to do to take your learnings out into the community and share what you've learned? So, and I put some pretty easy examples on each one of these, so you guys have them to follow along. What I learned today, and I do learn this every time, is that the community coming together makes better decisions than we do alone. And the so what on that is that I'm encouraged to keep working with our community. And then the now what for me, as it keeps being, is that I will run more CIP 1694 workshops to gather more data. And there you go. So there's a simple what, so what, now what. And if you guys would participate in that, I'd appreciate it. Grab a sticky note and just share how today worked for you.
Lloyd, just to jump in, great workshop, by the way. It's really seamless and quick, which is good.
Appreciate that.
I just had a broader comment about the off-chain stuff, because you're right, and everyone here is right with the tooling that people need. I think one of the things to bear in mind is when the governance action is submitted on chain, it's either ratified or not ratified within a 5-day boundary, right? An epoch boundary.
Mm-hmm.
So for a dRep to be able to be informed of a governance action and see a history, be able to understand if there is some momentum behind it or general social buy-in, there needs to be an off-chain element to governance actions before they reach on-chain. And how long that is, right, could be a week, could be a month. And given that there could be multiple governance actions within any epoch boundary, there is the workload is definitely something to think about here. Mm-hmm. So when we're thinking about tooling, also think about it before it even becomes a governance action.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that's another area. That's actually what I want to do. I think I'm skipping next week. There's some stuff happening next week that I try not to take the oxygen out of the room from others when they have big stuff that they need to do, or have one that doesn't have good participation. And I think there's a fairly big one coming next week with the Catalyst Circle doing a listening session. So I'm going to skip a week, but following that, the next session for me is proposal management and tooling around proposal management, so that we can kind of get an understanding of what are the pieces that are needed to get a proposal ready to go on chain. And a big chunk of this tooling should interact with that tooling is my thinking, right? So that the dReps had plenty of time. Hey, this is a proposal that's bubbling its way through. It's, it looks like it's going to make it in. I need to know what my delegators think, and they can make a poll and do that kind of stuff, and maybe seek out an expert, that sort of thing. And for me, it's trying to figure out how we're going to know when a proposal is moving from the ideation phase kind of to the I'm going on chain, and how do we signal that is kind of important. And that's kind of a missing piece I don't have yet, I think.
Yeah, and no, neither do I either, Lloyd. It's something that the community needs to sort of think about as a collective. And yeah, agree on that. I agree. I think some dReps may say, listen, I'm not going to be voting on any governance action that hasn't had at least some level of oversight before it's reached on chain. It could just be a principle that some dReps take.
Yeah.
That if it's gone through these forums, if it's gone through this level of due diligence or quality check, then I'll consider it, sort of thing.
Nice. Yeah, that's good. And so inculturation as well. So that's a whole nother nother topic. We could do a topic on inculturation, like how do we that'll be fun. I think that one I think that one I'd want to advertise a good bit first, because I'd really like to spread that one wide in the community. Maybe do it as a couple different ways, like as a Twitter space, an after town hall, kind of repeat it a few times.
Yeah, nice.
Okay, I appreciate the feedback, Jack, as always. Thank you.
No, all good. Just a general comment on feedback, but no, it's all good, Lloyd.
All right, so I'll open the floor now to any final comments. Does anybody have any questions about the topic today, or any comments that they'd like to share with the room?
No, I was hoping James would be able to hang out. I guess he had to leave prior obligations, but he's got a workshop coming up in person. And where's it at, Steve? I'm drawing a blank. Massachusetts?
Yeah, Worcester, Massachusetts.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to be like about a week, I think.
Next week.
Yep.
Next Thursday, the 8th.
Excellent.
Gonna be a good crowd there. Steph McCurdy's gonna go, and Kendrick Nelson will be there. Sebastian Pabon, a lot of good guys.
Oh, that's great.
Are they going to stream it?
I think he decided to let go of that. It got logistically really difficult.
Okay.
He may tape it, record it. But he's planning to do that program where they're going to be breaking out into breakout rooms, and it just got crazy, because you couldn't get if you could just go into a recording studio, that'd be great, but that's not the best place for a workshop. And so then to go set that up in a hotel was a little bit of an issue.
Right. All right. Well, on that note, I appreciate everybody coming in today, and I look forward to taking all this material, putting it together, and adding it into the report for the IO team that's working on finishing up the rest of SIP 1694 and the big sort of finishing conference that's expected in Ireland, Scotland, sorry, Edinburgh, Scotland, in July. And I plan to attend there, bring the learnings there, although I've submitted them long before. I'm planning on bringing the learnings with me there, and having conversations there in Edinburgh as we wrap up this era of Voltaire governance and getting us on the way to Cardano self-governance. So thank you all. I'll see you next week.